Our story begins probably just down the road a little bit in 1806 with a woman whose name was Mercie Dale, and she had a daughter whose name was Silence. Well, Silence met and fell in love with a man by the name of William Hayden. Now, he didn't have a lot like, back in the early 1800s, people settling up here. It was a little rough, a little hard scrabble. Well, Mercie was a widow, and she had an inheritance from, family and her late husband, so she was a little well off. Well, William wanted to get a farm started. He wanted to make sure he could provide for his wife, so he asked his mother-in-law for a loan. Of course, wanting to help out her daughter, wanting to help out her son-in-law, she gave him a loan to help, get himself started. Of course, she expected to be paid back. Well, as time goes by, he's doing okay. He's built a house, he's bought a farm, he's starting to do all that. Keeps getting behind and, well, Mom, can you lend me a little bit more? Mom, can you do this? Mom, can you do that? And of course, she wanted to help out because, he's her son-in-law and he'll take care of her. He's taking care of her daughter, letting me live there, so everything's okay. Well, there was always one reason why he couldn't pay her back, And she's noticing he's having enough time to go off and do whatever. Somebody had told him that hard work never hurt anybody, but I guess from what I have read about him and learned about him, he decided he wasn't going to take any chances. So he liked going off and hanging out. So he's still not paying her back. She's starting to ash, she's starting to get a little insistent. He's not paying her back. Well, around this time, she also starts getting sick. The doctors couldn't find out what was wrong. She's getting sicker and sicker and worse and worse. Finally, she gets it into her head, he's poisoning me. So when it finally gets to the end, she's not getting paid back the money she's owed, and she's dying. She puts a curse on him. She says, fine, live it up. It's not going to do you any good. The same thing that's taking me is going to take your family, and by the third generation, there will be no one left. And everything you've cheated me out of, you will lose 10 times over. Rest in peace, Mom. She passes away, he buries her, everything's all set. Well, Silence and William had 5 children. All but one died very early age. 2 years, 5 years, stillborn. They have one son, William Hayden Jr. He grows up to be, a grown man. He grows to adulthood and everything, and he takes over from his father after his father dies. Now, he is the one who was the playboy. He was the one who was all the money that the family had. He wasn't going to let it go to waste. He was going to make sure that it was spread around as much as he could with parties, and he built a 2.5-story brick mansion just up the road here. Now, the top floor was interesting. See, it wasn't an attic, it wasn't for storage, it was a dance hall. It was a ballroom. It even had a spring-suspended floor to help give the dancers a little extra bounce, as the story goes. William, he has children. A lot of them die under mysterious causes, illnesses that could never be diagnosed. They weren't poisoned, they all died of illness, consumption, tuberculosis, whatever. Same with his brothers and sisters. They all died mysteriously because the doctors couldn't quite figure out what it was. Well, William, his time came in 1910, and he was the last Hayden to be buried here, and the hearse brought him from his doorstep to the church and finally to be placed here with his family. He did have a daughter who, following her father's death, he had pretty much gone through all of the money that they had, and there was nothing left. So she was a pauper. She never married. She never had children. And finally, when she died, that was the end of the Hayden line and the fulfillment of her grandmother's curse. Now, the house down here, after the Haydens died, it was abandoned for a while. But when you went walking by on the moonless nights, you could sometimes see lanterns in the yard, in the window. If you were really quiet, you could hear the sounds of dancing, partying up on the 3rd floor. Well, one thing, as Jerry will testify to, that we Vermonters love more than anything else is a good story. And if there is anything that we can base something off to make it an even better story, we will not lose that opportunity. So all sorts of stories began to evolve, talking about William Hayden Jr.'s playboy lifestyle. Each one gets a little bit better and a little bit better. He did not employ local contractors to build his mansion. He brought in illegal workers. Some say black, some say Chinese, depending on which version of the story you hear. When they died, he would hastily bury them in unmarked graves out in the backyard, out in the field. Those were the lands that you would see. There are supposedly underground tunnels leading from there to the Black River, where he would sneak in either ladies of negotiable affections or illegal booze. Because I don't know, it wasn't prohibition back then, but was Albany a dry town? So that was to help smuggle in things for the party. I don't know if anybody has ever found any of those tunnels, but one thing that Jerry will also agree to, no good Vermont raconteur, which by the way is a fancy name for a bullshit artist. Technically it's a storyteller. No good raconteur will ever allow facts to interrupt a good tale. There has been paranormal activity, and the Hayden family curse is probably one of the most famous ghost stories in the state of Vermont. I don't know if current owners have reported any activity, but if you grew up around here, and even not necessarily around here, because I grew up in Burke, Vermont, which was way on the other side of Sheffield Heights, I heard stories about the haunted Hayden Mansion.